That the board confirms the agenda for the meeting of June 13th, 2025 as amended with the following addition. Letter from the Honorable Michael S. Kerzner, Solicitor General.
Can I get a mover and seconder? Member Andrews, Member French, all those in favor? All right. We have no delegations. See no unfinished business. Any new business? No. All right, then we move right into reports, and I'm going to hand it over to the Chief of Police.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As provided by the PSB Secretary, our news releases are simply a regurgitation of what we've put out on our social media platforms over the last period of a month. Subject to any questions, I'll submit those for information to the board.
Any questions or comments for the Chief? Seeing none, can I get a resolution?
That the media releases provided by the Chief of Police be received as information.
Can I get a mover and seconder? Member Barber and Member Graves, all those in favor? That's carried. And on to 8.2.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, the P5 budget presentation is rather self-explanatory and really nothing that I need to draw the board's attention to. We're sitting at 40% for full-time salary, benefits, and wages, which is right on track. You'll note with the part-time, the number there is at 39%. However, that's a bit of a misnomer, only in the fact that our part-time special constable, which we receive a grant reimbursement through the province through the court security prisoner transport grant, comes out of there, but then it comes back on the back end. So that's not the actual true number of the part-time constables that we're sometimes having to supplement the road with. I think the deputy will agree. I think we've only had probably 8 shifts the entire year of the part-time officers. So in all actuality, we're well under that. As I said, 40% tracking right on with normal. Again, nothing really out of the ordinary. The only thing I will draw the board's attention to and some issues we're dealing with are 2 of our cruisers approaching the forecasted budget amount for repairs and maintenance. And that's simply due to the fact that 2 of those vehicles have upwards of 180,000 police kilometers on them. So we're just dealing with some of the natural wear and tear and some of the expenses that are incurring with that. The one being unit number 3. Somewhat newer, and that was a vehicle that was purchased with a hybrid motor, so fluctuating between the battery and the gas. Frankly, nothing but problems. So we've already had some discussions about the next vehicle that we're going to be reverting back, most likely just to a standard gas engine and an Explorer to avoid some of those expensive issues that result from that.
Chief, what kind of problems are you having with the hybrid?
So, again, not a mechanic, but there's some alternators and some other parts that basically change from battery to gas. And when those parts break, and we've had it happen twice now, they're very expensive and they're seemingly not under warranty. It's not under powertrain. So those have been the main one. There's another electrical issue, which we just had it in for, which is on the exact same cause. So we're just working through that. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Outside of that, we've had some more grant funding come in. We just had a notification that our emergency disclosure protocol grant is going to be issuing the final payment, which is about another $7,000, which will round out the year on that. And currently we're tracking about 1.33% under budget for this time of year, somewhere in the 47,000 surplus range. So all in all, we've been doing fairly well, and that includes any backfills of our labor with full-time members as overtime. So we're sitting very well going into the summer. Short of any questions on the police operating budget, that is my report on that.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, can I get a resolution?
That the May 2025 budget report from the Chief of Police be received for information.
Can I get a mover and seconder? Member Andrews, Member French, all those in favor? And that's carried. So now we're on to 8.3, which I believe is you, Michelle.
The report before the board today is asking for the approval and adoption of a subsequent policy for political activity. So previously, we had presented 21 policies for review by the board in April, and those were adopted. We had the same developer consultant work on these procedures. He has presented the attached policy about political activities, and this would be for police officers employed by Aylmer Police Service, and also it applies to so board resources that are being used during an election campaign. The next municipal election is October 26, 2026. So this would be an appropriate policy to adopt for our members and for our police service members, so that we're making sure that we respect all our legislative requirements if there's an interested person running in an election. Just to highlight a few of the important pieces, it does state that employees are allowed to participate in political activities, but they cannot use board resources or identify themselves as board employees during those activities. Campaigning, it is prohibited for board premises. Also, you cannot use board communication tools for election purposes, and it requires that the board facilities and resources not be utilized during campaigning. And then also just the last point, it specifies that police officers must refrain from expressing political views related to their duties and outlines the conditions under which they may seek political office. So with that, the policy is attached for review, and we are looking for approval today.
Thank you, Michelle. Any questions or comments from the board? Chief?
Just to touch on this, Mr. Chair, this actually arose, initiated through the Inspectorate of Policing. So this was a query that they were making with several police agencies and something that they've been taking on. And to our credit, Mr. Preston, our policy developer, was ahead of this and pushed this forward for the board to be in compliance and ahead of the game. So upon my review, it seems very timely and seems to be in line with what we need to do.
Thank you. Yeah, he seems to have become very valuable to us in developing these policies. So no questions or comments from the board. Can we get a resolution?
That report, PSB 09-25, regarding political activity policy be received for information, and that the board approves and adopts policy GP-022, political activity.
Can I get a mover and seconder? Member Barber, Member Graves, all those in favor? And that is carried. So now on to 8.4, and back to you, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is basically a continuation of one of the larger projects that the Police Services Board, you'll recall, has already approved in principle of the $250,000 last year for this year slated for police station improvements. As I indicated at the time, and I continue to echo, one of the biggest things that we are advocating for and a proponent of is the improvement for our client experience, for the members of the public coming into the police station, and ultimately seeing a face and having exceptional service delivery from the moment they enter that door. In line with moving forward on this, and a bit of background, we submitted a victim support grant to have some of this funding hopefully covered for the lobby, and we were quite hopeful on that. The first round for the last victim support grant we were unsuccessful in. So there is going to be a call for applications again moving forward, which we fully plan to put this proposal forward through again. Barring the outcome of that, if we are successful, great. If we are not, we're going to have to move forward with self-funding this. However, we think that this can be done well within what was already approved by the board. We're not seeking anything in addition to what was already approved. In fact, we think we can come in significantly under that, even if we have to self-fund this. The steps of progression and what needs to happen next is exactly in line with what A-Link Architecture put forward, and putting forward the actual design drawings, putting together a tender package so we can get a true dollar and cent value on this, and moving forward with that. I consulted with Mr. Koning through the town here, and this is obviously more within his expertise and mine, dealing with these tenders and the architect companies. And he assisted with this staff report back, effectively recommending we proceed with A-Link, and noted that the price was actually quite reasonable for what we're looking for. So it's the intention of the deputy and I that once, if this is approved by the board, we get these drawings and the true construction costs back. We will append this to our grant application for the victim support grant as an in-kind donation, which in their point scheme actually should move us ahead a little bit, because we're putting something forward to what we're asking for. And regardless of if we're successful for the grant or not, this is necessary and this is timely, and a lot of the grants actually are run on a time cycle. So when they take into account, and we had some of this feedback with the debrief we had on the last grant, they want actionable things that they can do right now, that they have a deadline on, that they can get within their fiscal period. So by having this, it's necessary no matter which direction we go, whether it's through the grant or whether it's through being self-funded, but this is the logical step of progression. Again, already within the 250 that was approved previously by the board, we're not seeking anything in addition. In fact, I suspect we would have been well within our jurisdiction to simply proceed with this as it was already approved. However, I want to keep the board involved in this and fully informed along the way, so that you're well aware of what we're doing. So the cost of this is $35,000, and this is going to put us to a point where through Terry and the town, we could move forward with an actual tender package out to contractors, receive bids back, and then move forward. So subject to any questions from the board, this is the staff recommendation report, and it is my recommendation in consultation with Terry that the board strongly consider moving forward with this.
Thank you, Chief. I'm going to open it up to the board for any questions or comments. Member Barber.
Thank you. I fully support shovel-ready projects. The town's been very successful over time in getting grants when there is a shovel-ready project. The support document doesn't say anything about the grant levels of possible funding. Can you touch on that, Chief?
Sure, thank you. So actual infrastructure grants are kind of non-existent at the municipal level with what we're looking for right now. And basically, it's my position, the province kind of views that as a municipal responsibility. However, this and the way that we've curated the link between the victim support grant in our lobby is exactly that. So many other police services have been successful with renovating their interview rooms and things within the station. But our position is that no one's going to get to those interview rooms and come in and report being victims of crime to us if we can't get them in the front door. And if you're coming into a daunting, underwhelming building, and I've said this before, and I think I've said it to the board, I equate this to going to a doctor's office where you have the best doctor in the world behind the doors, but you walk into a crummy, dark lobby, you have no faith in what's about to happen when you go see that person. And that's the exact way that we kind of feel that first approach is taken when people come into our station. They want to see a person, they want to feel at ease, they want to have, faith in what's about to happen and us taking them through that process. So that's the nexus that we've drawn with how this grant truly relates to the victims of crime. So it's a bit of some creative writing. It's certainly not outside of the four squares, and there's nothing that we're being misleading on. This is exactly the approach we're taking, and once we had our debrief with the last unsuccessful grant submission, they really saw where we were coming from on this, and in fact encouraged us to apply for the next call. So we do want to wait for that. This was again a recommendation, having one of those in-kind things ready to go, shovel ready, like you said, that will hopefully put our foot forward, and then save and accept what happens with the next result of the grant being successful or not. We'll then decide which direction we're going to go. But regardless, this needs to happen, and we're quite excited. And we see it every day when people come into the lobby and they're disoriented. They don't know if they got to pick up the phone, knock on the glass. We try to get out there and greet people as best we can. But even the and everyone's seen it, the logistics behind that aren't ideal either. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Just to follow up, if I may, the timelines mesh on this?
Yes, they do. So it's my understanding that we should have this back in hand within 90 days.
Any other questions or comments? Chief, do you know a timeline for the grant, the next grant, when that opens up?
I expect it to come out anytime, and generally, once they're released, there is about a 3-month window of applying, so this would be well within that. And then again, you run into the summer break, so decisions tend to take a little bit. But I expect it should be out anytime, and it should close midsummer.
Thank you. All right, can we get a resolution?
Report PSB 10-25 entitled Entrance Addition Detailed Design Authorization be received for information, and that the board approve the proposal from A-Link Architecture as outlined in the report.
All right, can I get a mover and seconder? Member Graves, Member Andrews, all those in favor? And that is carried. 9.1, we had a letter from the Solicitor General. Anyone comments or feedback on that? Everyone had a chance to review that? All right, and then now we move into closed session.
Can I?
Oh, sorry, Chief, go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, if I could just put some context into this. The CSP grant, which is a pretty significant grant for municipal police services, effectively ended and left a lot of police services kind of in financial limbo with some programs that they were running, us included. So this is something that has now received a new call for applicants, and we put forward what we think is a pretty strong grant proposal requesting some significant provincial funding, which the deputy and I have both been in the MPP's office speaking and kind of pitching our case on this, on why we in small local municipal policing really need this. And we've also spoke with Danny Strong, who's the advisor to the Solicitor General, basically saying the exact same thing, to the point where the Solicitor General responded basically saying that he's aware of the lobbying we're doing and the need, and spoke to how the process works. So certainly no lack of effort on the deputy and my part trying to kind of get noticed and make this grant happen. So we're doing what we can, and I think having the response from him is at this point at least favorable. So.
All right, thank you for that, Chief. All right, so we're going to move into closed session.
That the Police Service Board shall move into a meeting close to the public at 9:17 a.m. to consider correspondence from the Aylmer Police Association regarding legal indemnification, Chief of Police report regarding complaint, Chief of Police report regarding negotiations, and that consideration of these items is closed to the public pursuant to Section 44(2) B, D, and E of the Community Safety and Policing Act 2019 as amended, as the subject matter pertains to B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including members of the police service or any other employees of the board, D, labor relations or employee negotiations, and E, litigation or potential litigation affecting the board, including matters before administrative tribunals.
Can I get a mover and seconder? Member Barber, Member French, all those in favor? And we'll move into closed. All right, can we get a resolution?
That the board rise from the meeting close to the public at 9:43 a.m. and reports the following: that the board received the reports of the chief of police for information and that the board provided direction to the chief.
Can I get a mover and seconder? Member Andrews, Member French, all those in favor? All right, and on to adjournment.
That the board now adjourn at 9:44 a.m.
Okay, mover and seconder? Member Barber, Member Graves, all those in favor? We are adjourned.